Guys, damn it, man. I finally did it. This is a weird one for me. This movie was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Absolutely love this actor. Can you put it together yet after I say this? A resurgence of some kind. Let's just fucking come out and say it. I smack my mic. The Whale. This one eluded me, but almost in like a purposeful way. It didn't come out, I think, until like Christmas, like December 24th or whatever. I was putting together my movie because I watched like 160 movies last year. Wanted this to be on there because I thought it had a chance to, be top 10, maybe even number one out of 160. Was super excited for it. Super duper excited for it. But once I missed at the theater because like Christmas shit going on, holiday shit, and it bled over in the new year, and I already did my favorite movies of the year. That video was out of the way, and this obviously couldn't be on there, not because it wasn't deserving. Every movie I saw made it, okay? It was deserving. Even the worst movies made that list because I went from worst, as in the worst movie I saw of that year, all the way to the tippity top. But once it eclipsed 2022 and went into 2023, I kind of was like, let's save one last like shebang, for the last year. So I waited a few months till, of course, now March for it to come out on Blu-ray. Bought it blindly. Didn't really give a fuck because I knew I'd enjoy it to some degree. Plus, it's Aronofsky. Like, come on. And yesterday was that day, and there was a lot of hype behind this movie. Not just the initial hype, but now knowing that he could win. Like, it wasn't just like those like not necessarily stuck up fans, but like these type of movies, there is a bunch of those type of fans that are just like holier than thou, like, well, you see, Brendan Fraser gave the best performance ever. Like, they just, the way they talk about movies almost sounds like snobby. Like, for instance, like, I'm that type of guy, but also like the lowest cheeseball shit ever. But there's a big crowd of those people, and I was curious if like, the Oscars, how would they feel about it? Then that got validated by saying he was going to be nominated. And then, of course, even seeing him win it like a few days before I actually get to watch the movie, it was just like, man, the time is now. And then, not to mention there was people I saw in comment section saying they would leave the theater sobbing and then they go cry in the bathroom for like 20 minutes before they go home. I was like, what the fuck? It can't be that. Is it that sad? Maybe I'm a depressing person. I like sad movies. But no, it wasn't. This movie wasn't sad. Okay, it was sad as shit. But I will say this. I didn't go cry in my bathroom for 20 minutes after. But let's dive a little into it. This movie, the fat suit, it looks so real. And knowing like where Brendan came from, because like he gained all that weight, like there's something that feels so personal about it, even though like it shouldn't feel personal to you, but because we're so attached to Brendan in this like weird way, whether it's fucking like George of the Jungle, watching that, like my age group as a kid, fucking watching Encino Man, The Mummy. I know so many of my friends, that was like their first horror movie. I know it's PG-13, it's not like overly aggressive R-rated, but like it's PG-13 and it's the closest damn thing to like a full-on horror movie a lot of people in my age group saw. All my friends from high school, we grew up quoting it and all that. Meanwhile, I was watching Friday the 13th, but I get how it could have a profound effect on them. And seeing Brendan like fall off that cliff and then seeing the weight gain and everything else, there's something that like you gravitated towards it where it's almost like you were pulling a piece of him into you, where like you see some people gain a lot of weight. You see some people go through drug addiction. It's not as personal feeling to you, but for some reason with Brendan, it felt like a extended piece of you. And like, I can't necessarily explain that, but you see that now. Like, I hate to even like be talking about this because I think there's a lot of people that are jumping on that bandwagon, just like, oh my God, yay for Brendan, which is great. The bandwagon should be huge, but you know how it is. There's always those like few people like, I've been watching Brendan for, but like a few months ago, they're probably the guy talking shit about him or a girl talking shit about him for like, man, you eating too many ho-hos. There's always those people, but there's no doubt about it, including myself, that he has had a huge, profound effect on people. And to see it just go under the radar and us all kind of have this uprising, like, yeah, fucking push him out there, have a chance in a movie like that. This is amazing. And him in this fat suit, you feel it. I think the more, like everything I just elaborated on, like, it's like he never got that fat, but like, you're like, this is like an icon to me. This is like a superstar. You know, this is like the funny, good looking, like action star type of guy that has it all. And to see him turn into this, like it hurt. And then it's like we got to see another elevated version of that took it to 11, and it made you pain yourself even more. Like, I mean, you even see him in the movie where like he was always bigger, but he never was this big. He let himself go to that degree. When you're watching this movie, you're looking at him beforehand where he was like, you know, he was fat, but he wasn't overly fat. You picture like if Brendan didn't have this turnaround where he got pulled out of the dark and into the light, as he even said, I think, in one of like his more recent speeches, could he have turned into this? So it's a really emotional, deep, personal journey, I feel like, for him that kind of bleeds over into us, especially like the age group I think I'm in, where it's just like you saw him every step of the way from the moment you were like 7, 8 years old until boom, you didn't. The acting in this movie, not even just Brendan, I mean, his nurse is amazing. Fucking Sadie Sink, you know, Max from Stranger Things. I think she's pretty amazing in this. And the few other characters you get, they are very solid. Now, I've heard a lot of people say this isn't a great movie. It's great performances. I can get that. I definitely can. Like, but that's because there's not some like huge overarching story. If you watch any like Aronofsky movie, that's typically kind of how it is. Like it's almost like the characters make the story. Like there's a story here, but it's very base level. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It's a very base level character study type of film with great acting, and it pushes the story forward through that. It makes it interesting, even though it is a base level, not a whole lot going on here. Like fat guy having troubles, and we're going to watch him have troubles. Yeah, on paper that doesn't sound good, and I get the storyholic, story's most important. We need more levels, but there is levels within that, and those levels are carried out not necessarily by the story itself, but by the actors and the main actor we have here who just won the Oscar for that acting. So I don't really like to beat it up on that front. Like I said, Aronofsky's always done that shit. Like with Black Swan, fucking Requiem for a Dream, at the end of the day, it's just about drugs or, you know, jealousy or whatever. But the characters and actors, they bring something into that story with their performances that almost makes it transform. Even when you're looking at something like Mother, the fucking actors, like actually when you think about it, like, because it's all one big metaphor, they make the story with their performances. Literally, the story is their performances in some weird way. I don't also want to give that away, but if you know, have seen the movie or don't know, that's just Aronofsky's films. This is my type of movie. I love movies like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the extravagant story, I like all the action, I love like the more detailed drama, but like sometimes I need that reset where it's just a guy in a fucking room and we struggle with them, and you will. There's no way around it. The anxiety in this movie, like the fear-inducing feeling where you're just unpleasant the entire time, but you know you're taking in something special, so you're here for it because it's a work of art. Aronofsky, great job with that in his directing as usual. And again, the performances, also good. The little reveals, I mean, it's not like there's nothing going on. There's not like, oh my God, like reveals, like, but there's reveals that happen that keep the story moving. A lot of it is the same thing over and over again, but we're going to a conclusion that we fear might be true or it might not be. And that's keeping us on board the whole way, again, with the powerful acting as we're trudging along this depressing train where that might not be for you, but if it is, and you like a lot of his other movies, the directors, you probably will really enjoy this. This movie, now it's almost like I can kind of come back and just shit on everything I just defended it for, because while I am saying it's more, you know, as a movie, it's more base level, there's not a lot going on, there is levels of that to where it does feel like we're kind of getting a little repetitive here. But it's not to the point where it's a detriment of the movie, but it's to a point where it's not an all-time classic. It's not your 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. But it is the point where it's like, this is a great fucking movie. We shouldn't be shitting on it for this. We should maybe, you know, come out what I'm saying now, like, and critique it in this way, but let's not act like that ruins the movie because the performances elevate it and turn it into something more than just, you're cut above. And I know that's what a lot of people are saying, but it's weird. If you watch his movies, they do have a way of kind of forming and making the movie, its own vibe, its own thing, to where it almost builds a story with the way, they convey hurt in their eyes, where like you can kind of go off as a viewer independently and kind of be like, okay, that's what we mean. And that probably had an effect on this. And that probably is what drove forward this. If you know what I mean, little nuances like that. But at the same time, though, I can't agree that that's what keeps it, I think, from being the 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, if that makes sense. But this is still an 8.5 out of 10. This is a great fucking movie. It was very well done. I definitely did cry. I did. It got me. That's why I'm crying. And I took a picture in the thumbnail. I was like, oh, it got me for sure. And it was one of those that, like, there's a lot of times I like welled up and I feel like, oh, here's the moment. But the movie would kind of like die off. It's like, oh man, if you would have kept going with that emotion, I would have been done for. But it would kind of die off. And I feel like it almost kind of does that in a unique kind of way where it's trying to set you up for that. Like it's doing that so you can be like, oh, I'm about to cry. Oh, no, I'm about to cry. Oh, no, I'm not. So, like, when you finally get there to the end where it does pile it all on kind of at once, and then you have that sad music at the end when the end credits roll, it's like all those times you dodged it. It's like, here you go, motherfucker. Take it all in at once. I almost feel like that was a deliberate choice for them to do it that way. Could be wrong. But that's when I was most impacted, actually, was when there's nothing on the screen except sad music. And it's like one of those where you don't turn it off. Like, you're not necessarily even into what's called the end credits. You're like, well, let's see you produce this and shit like that. But you're just sitting there, like, you can't move. Like, you're stuck with it. Like, and you want to cry. You're like, oh my God, like what? You're starting to really decode and break down in the blink of an eye as it ends. Just like, what did I just watch? And how did that affect me on a deeper level? And I think that might have been deliberately done. I wonder. You have to ask the director. But yeah, this movie is great. I fucking loved it. Better late than never. This was like my last one. I saved, like I said, later on for the following year from where it came out a few months ago. Normally I'm on it like that. But I'm glad I did that. It kind of almost gave it like a main event type feel to, finally completely lay down and close out 2022 and the great movie, in my opinion, great movie year that it was. So The Whale, I dug it. Now, if Aronofsky could like not wait 5 years to do a movie, but like maybe that's why all his movies are so good, because they're so just taken care of, He preheats the oven. He don't just throw the shit in the microwave. Analogies, people. I don't know. Watch The Whale, because it is the whale of a movie and whale shit. I'm out of time, guys. Love y'all.